Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Who We Are podcast. I am so excited to share today's episode with you as it features an insightful live session with none other than Joyce Chen, my leadership coach, and she's also a seasoned leadership coach who has worked with the top business leaders and entrepreneurs around the world. In this special episode, Joyce generously shared her wisdom in a recent get-together with a group of founders and entrepreneurs where we explored powerful strategies for building resilience, trust, and emotional intelligence. Joyce demonstrates real-time coaching during a live Q&A, offering tangible solutions to challenges that many entrepreneurs face. This conversation is all about learning how to be a more effective, authentic leader by first understanding ourselves, our strengths, our challenges, and how we can show up with clarity and purpose.
Okay, so I was trying to think of if I were to distill down two things I would really want to leave everybody in this room with. The first is a framework or a tool that I think is the most simple, the most powerful tool that I've ever come across as a leader myself, and then that I've been using to teach and coach founders and leaders. And that tool is what I call a line. So it's a black line. The core framework of conscious leadership is called above the line, below the line. So what the line represents is what I call context. The content of our life is the budget, the product, revenue, whatever we're working on, whatever's happening in our life, the who, what, where, when of life and work, I call content. Context is how we're being in relationship with our content. When we are below the line, so if you imagine me just drawing a line, when we're below the line around our content, we're being in relationship with the content from a place of fear, threat, needing to be right, being closed off, being defensive. And so when we go below the line, that's the posture that we take. It's literally a posture of contraction. And when we're in contraction, all we see are problems. If we move to above the line, from above the line, we're in relationship with our content from a place of trust, curiosity, and seeing all of life as a game of learning. So when we're in relationship with our content from above the line, we're in a state of expansion. And in expansion, we see solutions. So this key question of where are you when you get that email, when you find out the answer from your investors, when you're going into your board meeting, are you leading, solving, influencing from above the line or below the line? And how do you know the difference? Are you in a state of contraction or are you in a state of expansion? Now, the reason that's so important is because when we go below the line, our brains and our bodies literally go into a state of fight, flight, freeze. So what's happening there is our heart's racing, our pupils are dilating, blood is, cortisol, adrenaline is rushing through the system, blood is being shunted away from our reproductive organs, from our digestive system. So we're literally in a state of fight, flight, freeze. And what that does is it contracts the three centers of intelligence: head, intelligence, heart, feelings, and body, your somatic intelligence. Now, as leaders, if you're going to navigate the unknown, do something that's never been done before, you need all three centers to be fully open in order to solve problems and to lead. When we're in contraction, we're just narrowing our intelligence. We have less access to it. So if we're willing to notice when we're below the line, which is not a problem, by the way, no one ever graduates from going below the line. We all do that. We never get so enlightened that we stop going below the line. So we all go below the line, and it's not important to be above the line. What's important is to notice, I think I'm below the line, and I have awareness around that. And in order for me to be more effective, to be more influential, I'm going to pause and shift from a state of contraction to a state of expansion. And there's a couple ways we can do that. Sometimes it's just breath, pausing to breathe. When we notice we're contracted, our heart's racing, our body's getting tight, when everything starts to feel really high stakes, and just pausing to breathe, maybe move the body, it starts to interrupt that natural reactivity pattern. And then we start to shift to above the line into a state of presence where we can be clear and open, and we ask questions on what can I learn? What can I learn from this experience? So knowing if you're above the line or below the line makes all the difference in the world, and giving yourself the awareness to shift if you want to.
Yeah. And I think it's such a great reminder that at the end of the day, life is not what happens to us. Life is how we choose to respond to what happens to us. Yes. And I think this has also been a really good exercise and a tool that we do keep in mind. Sometimes when Dion and I, when we share about certain things that happen, we are very aware, we'll say, okay, that was me below the line, but we just have to vent and talk about it. But after that, knowing that we need to get back up above the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like a muscle that the more you work at it, the stronger you get, and the lesser time you need to get back up to above the line.
Yeah, we just want to catch it more quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all worked for people in this room who were very below the line and had no idea.
Everyone's nodding.
Yeah, right. So we can't shift that which we can't see. So if you don't know you're below the line, it's impossible to shift out of it. And so one of the things we can do with this kind of awareness is not be those leaders.
I think all these tools are also so useful for at home, besides with my husband, with my kids. One of my favorite tools that Joyce taught me is, sometimes when I to her for a session and I'm like so frustrated, I lay out all my problems and issues and complaints, and Joyce would just look at me and she said, okay, now tell me, how did you co-create this problem? And I just and maybe you can teach us how to go through that concept of learning,
of teaching the class.
Yes.
So what Rachel's talking about is this idea of taking 100% responsibility. Notice when we're blaming and shift into responsibility. And this is a tool called Teach the Class that we use to help somebody work through their issue.
Okay. So
Great.
Ivy, okay. Hi Ivy.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick an issue that you're having that feels like salient, charged, something that you're dealing with that you would rather not be dealing with.
Right. I think one of the biggest things I deal with is truly what you mentioned, like hygiene. Like I find it really difficult to be very disciplined. Because just kind of some context is that I'm a very new entrepreneur on this journey. I've been doing this as a sideline, like my job as a sideline for like 10 years. And this year I decided to make it full time. But with that, it came with a lot of baggage for me that, I feel that, I've toiled for 10 years. And like this year, now that I'm starting my business, like maybe I can, take a step back, take my time to build something. And I give myself a lot of that excuse. And I find it really difficult. Like, I've tried everything, I would write things down. I would write it on a Post-it. I've tried everything possible, but I find it very challenging to really push myself to be more disciplined, to say that, hey, I have these things I want to get done on my list. And I should at least get, 2 out of 10 things done. But I really struggle with that on a really badly daily basis.
Okay, great. So what I hear you saying is you struggle having discipline in running your own business. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
And we're going to play a game, which is a great exercise that hopefully you all can play with your own issues, which is called Teach the Class. So I like to play it as a game and make it really fun because it helps us laugh and break out of our pattern of being below the line or being reactive. And so what I want you to do is to pretend you're a professor at SMU or Harvard, and you're teaching us all how to have your problems. So you're going to teach us a class on how to not have discipline in running your own business.
How to have the problem.
Yeah, like what are some of the things you do to make sure that you don't have discipline?
I think an easy one is, you write it down and then you're like, I can do that tomorrow. Or I can tell myself, it's a long day. It's a hot day in Singapore. Maybe tomorrow.
Great, thank you, Professor. So what I'm taking away is write it down, but just don't do it today. There are lots of reasons why it shouldn't be done today.
Yes, because self-love, and we're going to do it today.
Great.
Maybe not today.
Okay, what's something else you would teach me, Professor?
You can write a to-do list, and then you can look at the words and say, maybe in this sentence I've done like 2 words out of 5, and I think that's good enough for today.
Great. So give yourself a free pass. Don't hold yourself accountable. And if you get part of it done, that's enough. That's good enough. Okay, great. And then if you were to teach us one final thing, if we wanted to be the experts of not having discipline, as founders or entrepreneurs, what would you teach us to do?
The expert level is to look online and see, people are saying, entrepreneurship is so hard. And then you go, yes.
Great. So
feel a little bit better about it.
Great. Feel very sorry for yourself. And maybe wallow in that a little bit. It's just hard. It is hard to do this. Great.
Yes. I think those were a lot of great tips.
Great. Beautiful class. Awesome. So thank you, Ivy. What you're teaching us to do is you are the expert of having this problem. You're able to teach us how to have the problem. So if you know how to create this problem, you actually know how to undo the problem, which is to take every single tip that you just taught us and do the opposite. So So you know how to solve this. You know how to get unstuck because you know how you created this. And so instead of writing things down and putting it to tomorrow, it's about writing, create whatever structure works for you about writing what can be done today, noticing when you're trying to push it off, instead of doing partial tasks or partial things in what you're writing in your goals, holding yourself accountable around, did I really do it? Like all the way.
Yeah, I think it's the holding myself accountable part, especially like because I'm quite new to this. I find it difficult to really hold myself accountable and be like, today I have to get this done.
Right.
And like by 5, I'm like, I guess I kind of got it done. Yeah.
Right.
That's the hardest.
So just noticing how much you're giving yourself a free pass when it's partially done, and instead saying, I'm not crossing it off my list until it's finished. And being realistic with yourself about how much time or energy you need to put towards that, and like setting realistic expectations for yourself. And then I heard something around spend a lot of time doing other things and procrastinating. So, I mean, everybody does that. That's not wrong or bad. It's just noticing how much you're drifting from whatever you're not wanting to face in the business, and catching yourself and noticing, like, when I go over here to talk to my friends, or I'm spending my time over here, what am I like turning away from? What am I not wanting to face? And instead coming to face that, which I know is challenging. So thank you so much for that demonstration.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ivy. But as you can all see, this works for any problem you're having, especially when you're blaming or criticizing someone else. So if your issue is like, they're lazy, they're incompetent, then you teach the class.
So anyone else, want to share something you're going through that, maybe Joyce can use this tool or other tools in her toolkit to be able to support and guide us through, that can be also very useful for other issues that might come up next time or for the rest of us. So any volunteers? Yes. Hi, Eileen.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi.
I'm not sure if any entrepreneur has ever asked you that, especially those who have been in business for maybe about over 10 years. So typically for my job, I trade time for money.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to a point where it becomes very mundane.
Mm-hmm.
So at which point do we say, I don't know if it's called a burnout, but at which point would a person come to you and say, should I take a break from work, or should I change trade to make it a little bit more exciting? Should I sell off the business?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I should step out and do something else, like what Rachel does.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's meaningful.
Yeah.
But she lets something run. But because my business is, I have to be present
Mm-hmm.
to get money.
Yeah.
It's not like I can pass it on to somebody else to do. So do you get questions like that?
Different forms of this question, which is, I've been doing this for a long time. What used to be very fulfilling to me is not as fulfilling as it once was. What used to give me energy maybe now is costing me energy. And so I think what I would share with you is the concept of the whole body yes. So whole body yes is when your head, your heart, and your body go check, 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 yes. 1,000% yes. Like every molecule of your body vibrates with a yes, I want that. And I like the idea of tuning into your whole body yes, because if I said to you, Eileen, Rach is actually doing a sweepstakes where she's giving $1 million to one lucky entrepreneur, and you're going to get $1 million to go take sabbatical and do whatever you want to do for 1 year. Would you like to have that?
For sure.
Yes. Whole body yes. Great. So anything shy of a whole body yes, I want you all to pay attention to. When you start making agreements and doing things around which you do not have a whole body yes, it starts to cost you energy, it starts to cost you life force, and like your engagement with whatever you're doing is going to wane because you don't really have a yes to doing it. So what I heard from you in the way you're describing it is there's some aspect of your job right now, I don't know the details, around which you do not have a whole body yes. And I don't know what the details are, but when I don't have a whole body yes to what I'm doing, I just check. First, what would it take for me to get to a whole body yes? Is there anything I would change about this? Maybe it's increasing how much I ask for in terms of compensation. Is it the hours I'm working, the way I'm doing the job, my scope? How would I tweak this to get to a whole body yes? And for some founders, the decision is it's not to be at this company anymore. And that's okay too. So just checking on your whole body yes and like, are you honoring your yes and your no? And if you're living a life in no, or you're doing a lot of things, spending a lot of time inside of a no, then it's not very fulfilling, you know? Like it feels like you don't know what it's all for. And so just checking on like, am I in a no? And what would it take here for me to get to a yes? Especially as a founder and entrepreneur, if it's yours and you started it, you think I have to be here until the end. Or I have to keep operating. I have to be present in the way that I'm present today, or it's not going to work. And I actually want you to invite you. If you don't have a yes to that anymore, you're a dreamer, you're a visionary. Reimagine what that can look like for yourself, where you get to stand in your yes and trust that whatever you've built will either continue on in a new way or come to an ending that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, like there's a way we can look at that so that you can honor your yes, which is the most important thing. Some people feel whole body yes very strongly. Some people know, they're like, yes, I know, and they can feel it. Some people who are more oriented, sort of like in the headspace, if you're somebody that analyzes a lot, worries a lot, ruminates, then sometimes what a whole body yes feels like is the absence of a no. So if you're like a real overthinker or overanalyzer, then it's probably very clear to you what no feels like and less clear what yes feels like. So if there's the absence of that big no, then that might be your whole body yes.
I think, in our life, in our journey, in our business, one of the most decisions that we have to make is knowing when to pause, when to pivot, when to persevere, and when to pull the plug. And it's not so straightforward. There's no formula, and it's different for every decision. And I think what really helps is really spending a lot of time with yourself, tuning into yourself. There's a lot of wisdom already within yourself. And uncovering all of that, whether is it through meditation, journaling, just time with yourself to listen, tuning in, and then also pay attention to what makes you excited, what you're drawn to, and why. And the whole body yes is also something Joyce has been bringing me through, through different seasons. And she'll always ask me, is it a whole body yes? And if I even before I hesitate or even before I answer, she'll say, okay, if it's not, no. And I think that also trains me to slowly start to pay more attention. I think it's so important at the end of the day that we are responsible for leading teams, leading our children, leading the businesses, but we don't know how to lead ourselves. And that to me, which is also why I named the podcast Who We Are. Because who are we at the end of the day when you can really lead yourself, when you can master yourself? That to me at the end of the day is true power.
Another thing I would always say about whole body yes is if you're below the line, it's very hard to know what your whole body yes is. So if I'm looking at a food menu and I'm below the line about the terrible day or week I've had, my body's not going to be clear around the whole body yes of what I want to eat on that menu. I might actually eat something that's very bad for me that I don't have a yes to. So notice if you're below the line, pay attention to that first, see if you can shift, and then check for your whole body yes.
Hi Joyce, thanks so much. Anyway, I love the energy here because all the questions were so relevant. My question is actually, maybe I give you some context first. I've been running this for 10 years and I run an English and writing enrichment school called Edge. So we've been scaling over the past few years, and because of that, I have had to bring in new people onto the leadership team. So my question is around coaching them in this area, right? Around above the line, below the line, getting them to be more conscious as leaders, as a team. Because as you get new people to come in, everybody is at different places. These concepts might be very new to them. How do I get started to introduce
this kind of thinking
to the team so that we can be more aligned and as a whole, as a group, be more conscious leaders? Because the pressure is high. We sometimes just going so fast.
Correct. Everything's reacting. That's such a common issue. So it's a really good question you're asking. I understand these principles of consciousness. How do I infuse that into my team? I'll start by telling you what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't tell them how unconscious they're being. You shouldn't tell them like, wow, you're so below the line right now. I can't talk to you. Especially if they don't know what that means. It's very unfriendly to go about it that way. So what you can do is role model what above the line, below the line looks like. You can tell them, look, I took this course. I'm reading this book. We have a book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. Oh, great. And you can say, this is what I'm learning. I was actually so below the line in that last meeting. And what I realized is I don't want to be leading from that place. I took a breath, I took a pause, I'm shifting to above the line. Instead, I'm getting curious, letting go of needing to be right. And this is what I realized about this and how I've shifted. When you role model it for your team and you show them the impact of it, that's the greatest gift that you can give them, because you're showing what conscious leadership looks like in practice. And then when they observe that, they're like, wow, teams have so much respect for a leader who can look in the mirror and say, oh, I'm very self-aware. I know I went below the line. I know I needed to shift there. And when they see you doing it, they start to trust you. You're inspiring them. And then they're much more willing to come forward towards the work. And you can say, I want to share this with you, read the book, maybe we can take a class. And then it's much easier to spread these tools because they're seeing how it works for you.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. So role model for them, and also I think introducing some vocabulary. That will help
Absolutely.
them
Yes.
communicate.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
hi Joyce. My name is Winnie. I'm the founder of Dr. Aura. We are a beauty supplement brand. So, my question is: currently we are expanding and we are doing a lot of things at one go, and like expanding market, new product line, etc., etc. So, when you're doing so many things at one time, I personally feel very overwhelmed and I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing, not sure whether if I'm following my gut correctly. So when you have like all that emotion, how do I like recenter myself and also to lead the team in the right place? So that's like the question.
Yeah. So the question is like, if I have so much going on, we're so busy, we're scaling. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
It feels overwhelming, and I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Like, how do I navigate something like that? Yeah, great. So there's so many ways I can answer this. Well, one question I have for you actually is: have you fully felt your joy?
It's like maybe it's at a point whereby you don't have the time to. Like you're
Yeah.
oh my god, there's this thing going on,
Yeah.
there's this thing going on. Oh my god, I don't know what. Am I happy? Am I upset?
Okay.
Am I like frustrated?
All right. Okay. So what's so interesting is I just tuned into you. I was like, oh, there's so much joy inside her, but I don't feel it on the outside. And you're telling me something good, but I don't feel the congruence of the expression of joy. Now, what's so interesting about this, and I'm really glad it's coming up, is joy is the number one most suppressed feeling inside of leaders and founders. We don't have time for joy. I'm busy. I'm a leader. Maybe they have time for happy hour. They have time for celebration. Not me. I have too many things to do. Now, that is actually very dangerous, because when we repress joy, when we don't celebrate, appreciate, or recognize what's good, we actually turn off our ability to feel clear, to feel happy, to feel fulfilled on the inside. And then it seeps out into the culture that we create, where everybody just gets so busy that they're not feeling that internal sense of well-being. Joy cultivates a certain kind of, I think about feelings sometimes as a faucet. If you shut one off, you shut all of them off. And so if you shut off fear, if you shut off anger, if you shut off sadness, then you actually can't access joy or creative energy, because they're all connected. You shut off one feeling, they all turn off. And when I experience you as maybe suppressing joy because there's not time and I'm too busy, then first you're cutting yourself off from a deep internal sense of well-being and like, wow, look at what we accomplished. This is amazing. Like really feeling that inside out. Then the faucet of feelings begins to flow. And then you can also notice, what needs to stop or change here if there's any anger? What would I cut out? What would I stop doing? Is there any sadness? Is there anything I should be letting go of here that I shouldn't be doing anymore, that I should hand off? Is there any process I would change? Anything I would end? And so if your joy is repressed, you actually repress all of your ability to feel the other emotions, which are so helpful in guiding you and navigating like this new unknown world that you're exploring. So actually, if you're going to show us how joyful you are about your company scaling, how would you express it with no words, just sound and movement? Great. And what do you want to celebrate with us? What are you proud of?
I'm proud that the team has been been going through all the tough times with the company, and they are holding on well and strong, and I'm just happy that they are here with me.
Yeah.
Celebrating
Great.
the success.
Great. You to feel that a little bit in your body. So first you stood up and you said, I have a problem. We're scaling. There's too many things to do. How do I figure out this problem? And now that you've felt some joy, I just want to check. Does it feel like such a big problem?
But now I have a second problem. How do I know if I'm doing things right? If we are on the right path?
Well, we never know.
It's
Like,
Yeah.
it's like always people ask, how do I know I'm gonna marry this
Yeah.
person?
Great.
Yeah.
So from below the line, that question is a problem. How will I know if I'm ever getting things right? That's a problem, right? There's some contraction. How will I know if I'm getting it right? You can ask that same question from above the line and get lots of interesting learnings, which is, as a founder who has scaled a very successful team, how will we know if we ever get it right? It's a question that you can ask with a sense of wonder and curiosity. How will we know if we ever get it right? And when you ask from that place of like deep curiosity, just noticing what you can learn from that question, you can discover some things for yourself, which is like when you ask that question from above the line, what do you notice? How will we know if we're getting it right? What do you know about that question when it's not from a scared place, but from a curious place?
We can only just action on it and see how things go.
Yeah, exactly. All we can do is take
Do our
that.
best.
Yes, all we can do is do our best with the information that we have and the smart people on this team, and then we'll see. It's not a problem anymore. We'll just see. We can never really know.
So it's okay. It's okay to not know.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you had the answer to that inside of you. You just had to ask the question from a different place.
So helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
I think one thing that helps me is also remembering that sometimes we win, sometimes we learn. And recently I also had the privilege of speaking to Stephen Bartlett, and I was asking him, Stephen, you give one advice for entrepreneurs, what would it be? He said, fail more. And literally he said, like, the faster you fail, the more you fail, the more you learn. Of course that you should learn, right? And I think like these are all important data points that if we don't look at failure as such a big scary monster that it defines us or is the end of the road, I think if you look at it like a learning point, that I get wiser and smarter from this, and it helps me make the next better decision. And that's how, at the end of the day, it's a marathon. So yeah, that's gonna be how you're gonna have to reframe our minds to keep ourselves going and pushing. Yeah, so yeah, I hope that helps. Joyce, do you wanna any last words or words of encouragement for all of us here?
Oh man, I think I just want to support all of you in doing what you're doing. Like, I look at all your faces and I'm so energized by like, I imagine like, what are you creating? What are you doing out in the world? And like, I want to keep supporting all of you and having these tools to just be your authentic self, follow your energy, follow your whole body yes. You have all the answers in here already. And so when you deepen the relationship that you have with yourself, when you get clear on how you're being in here, am I above or below the line? Then you can be very clear with how you're being in relationship with what's out there. If you're not good in here, then it's impossible for you to be in relationship with what's outside of you.